Well, after this morning's handshake video, I'm going to keep this because I think it kind of embodies all the things that I do, apart from the flower. But if you saw it, but you can see how it starts to work. You know, it's starting to. For me, most people look at that and think that's a lot of rubbish. But for me, that's what I like. So I'm going to keep that because I can use that as a demo with the students. So I'm going to draw something now that just for the sheer hell of it, I think. I found some more paper. The off-white cream paper. You know, when I first started doing this, I hated the fact that it wouldn't be square with the side of the paper. And then you can see it there, it's like sticking out the side of them. My standards have dropped, obviously. Yeah, so I'm going to draw this lady and capturing a moment in time. That whatever she's thinking about right in that moment, that's the goal, to try and capture that. It's definitely a one of those things you can connect to, because I'm trying to imagine what she's thinking, and that kind of begins the process. As I was saying this morning, knowing the subject, giving her a name. Her name's, I don't know, Caroline. I don't know Caroline, but Christine maybe. Yeah, she's a Christine. So this is Christine. So and she's thinking about something. I don't know. I don't know. Look at that face. What's she thinking about? It's a bit seductive, sultry thing, sultry thing, isn't it? You know what I mean? So I can't imagine what she's thinking. I can, but I won't say. But anyway, so that's the goal, if you like. I tell you what's interesting about this as well. I know I keep speaking, but for me, this is what a typical environmental context kind of drawing. This will not work as a floater, as a floating head. It won't work just as the head floating in the middle of nothingness. It just needs these tones to give it context, the curtains to give it context, and the way the light hits the shoulder. All of those things, I think it's environmental. So in a way, I'm already predetermined how it's going to turn out, but it's also what's drawing me to the subject. It's because it's a painting in a way. It's an environmental sort of thing. So I know the importance of the environment that her head's, that she's in, and how it impacts on the emotional aspect of it. Because I've said that before about the background being or the placement of the subject being a contributing part of the capturing the essence. It's got to be, hasn't it? You know what I mean? It's got to be. It's got to be. It's one of those things I don't need to explain, but it is definitely going to be about, the way it feels is about the way where they are, the lighting and things. It's got great light. It's got painting written all over it, hasn't it? Really, it needs to be painted, but I'm not getting the oils out just for this. I can't be bothered. I can do it with charcoal. It's not a problem. So as this morning, I'm still doing the meandering thing. And I say, I'm doing this now. Now that I've explained why I'm doing it, you should understand why I'm doing it. And I'm just trying to find stuff. You see, the thing is, like, I'm now looking at, this area here in relation to, there's a kind of a shape there in her eye. You see, there's that shape there, and how that comes across. And then I'm looking at all the size of these things. So that's what I'm doing. And the nice thing about it is I'm back on the charcoal, so it's always good with charcoal. Just know it feels effortless. I'm still waiting for Vic. If you're watching this, Vic, tell me why you find charcoal difficult, and I'll try and talk about what I found works for me, because you can see what I'm doing with it, but it's still not. It's me using it, not you. You know what I mean? And I'd like to know what it is you think is difficult about using it. I did that on purpose then, if you noticed. I just showed you what my eyes were doing when I was trying to find a vertical alignment, basically. I'm going to put tone on there for one reason. I need to get the width of things. You see that width there? I'm looking at that width there, so I need to get that width there, so I can work out the width of this, so I can work out the width of this, and so I can work out the width of that. So all these things are all comparative. You know, they're all relatable or related. So I need to do that. I need to make establish things that may seem like on the other side of the face in order to get that relates to that. And you know what I mean? That's what I was doing. The bottom of the ear there, and then this is the thing I'm looking at now. This thickness here, that there, right, is what I'm looking at now. Then I'm looking at the distance from there to the corner of our eyebrow socket. There, that one. And then letting that come down there. Then the hair is here. I'm not worried too much about the curls and things. I'm just going to put the rough size of everything, right? One of the things, and I can see it, but I don't know if you can see it, but you know where the mouth is? Look at the mouth. Is there? It feels a little bit, you know, that cartoon manga thingy, and it's because of the, you know, it's sort of, there's a tiny little lip at the bottom. You see what I mean? She's like pursing her lips. And then the relationship between that and the eyes is a bit wonky. It's a bit off. So I've got to fix that. I've got to fix this shape that's coming in here, right? And then the width down to there, to where her nostril is, that bit there, right? And then round here, and then up to there, and then there's a gap to there. Then a mouth is there. So we're getting something like more like a definite position of the mouth. And then the other nostril onto there. Just the square of the bottom part of her nose is not right. You know, underneath her nose is not right. But I'm just going to take some of this out here like that, and then I can you can see it's coming down there like that, and then the darker part of my mouth. I'm just going to look at the alignments of this. So if this is coming into here and our eyes there, and it's darker there, and then there's the lid there, our eyebrows there, and the side of her cheek is there, which is tucking in there like that, and then it flares out a little bit there, and then it sort of just comes back in again, and then underneath there. And then it's kind of right. Still a little bit, maybe looking a little bit wide in that point there. But the main thing is this bit here. You see how that is then when it needs to be quite. If I drop this, if I do a vertical drop on that there, I've got the highlight on his cheek, on a cheek there, which is dropping down to there, right, like that. Her ear is there, so it's dropping down to there, and this bit here is the bit that sort of tucks round again there. So that then, you see how that changes the face completely. And then there's the, you know, the hairline thing. So if I'm 100% with this, but I'm not, because I think it's a little bit wider. You know, this here, I think this is a little bit wide. I'm just looking at that shape there. This is the shape isolation thing. I'm not really bothered about anything else. I'm just looking at the shape of that shape, our eye socket, and the bits within it. So I'm looking at. So once I've got that to the right width, and I'll fiddle with the tone just a little bit to affect my help me see better. I can then look at this trajectory, this line here, this edge here, as it comes up like that, and then into the where the parting is. So it's that bit there, for instance. Now I'm going to put that on there just because it's going to give the shape a little bit more context, and we'll indicate some of the obvious tones on this, and then around to that, and then so this is again this is the bit here I'm looking at. So I think it's probably a little bit, because I'm looking at, if I drop a vertical from where that is, where the edge of that socket is, if I drop that, it's coming somewhere down there, which is where the end of that jawline stops, and then sort of drops down a bit here, but then disappears there. So that goes up to there, and then there's the ear that's in there. The bottom of her ear is there, right, which is like that. And increase the density just to make sure that you see it's better. The thing I'm throwing at the moment is that I just need to get the shape of the lips a little bit more how they should be, rather than it being and we'll get rid of the highlight on there. The highlight's here, so there's here just on this bit here, and then on the other side there, but it's not where I've got it. So, and then there's this, a darker shadow underneath the bottom lip thing there, like that. And then round here, bringing that again, looking for the diagonals, sorry, the verticals. So we'll come down like that, and then like that, give me the idea of where this is going to be, and then round there like that. You can see when I was talking about using tone to find shapes, how much easier it is than outlining shapes, because it's you kind of, you're doing the tonal stuff early on, and it helps you to see better, and consequently, because it's got a realistic feel about it because of the tones being applied to it. You can see whether or not the shapes are right, whether the forms work out. You know that thing about when you apply tones to shapes, it can change. You can change the shape of a tone, the shape of a shape with tone. It's happening when you're doing it like this. It's happening all the time. I'm all the time fixing the shapes. I still don't know what she's thinking about. Daydreaming. That's what she's doing. Daydreaming. Don't put any comments below saying what she's thinking about, right? Unless it's something repeatable. I don't want to be upsetting anybody or offending anybody. Right, so big thing now is the checking on the relationships, I think, of everything, so that I can commit more to it. I think the thing I'm looking at the moment is this. It's this eye, really. I think that eye's a little bit big, as it comes around that. So again, the shape identification thing or isolation thing, that shape there, that one there, that comes in and then around. Have I got that shape right there? That's the thing. I think it's a bit big. I think it's a little bit too big. Yeah. So this is a problem here. This it's pushing the. It's going to be lighter there, but it's pushing the. You see, it's better now. Look, it was pushing the shapes in the wrong direction. Again, it's here as well. I will just fix that there. So just looking at everything as a whole, this seems too wide. You know, the side of a face seems too wide. But it may well be that it's just the way that the trajectories are working. You know, the well, the lines are implying that it should go in a certain direction. So I'm just going to put. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll put on some of the tone in the hair because it'll help me to see in relation to. You know, everything else in relation to. So I was just going to put a few marks on this and not really worry too much about it being super accurate just at the moment. I just want to get it in roughly in the right place. I still think that's probably the eye that's causing that that width issue. Yeah. The other thing I thought when I saw this image, another Pinterest image, was this. You know, this lower half shadow thing. I quite like that, and there's a highlight there, but the lower half shadow, and apart from the highlight there, and then the forehead, and particularly that bit there, I quite like that, and all the bottom half being in a fairly grey shadow. Kind of. I'm gonna now. I've got the outer extremities of the hair in position. I want to try and make those more solid because I can use those as a size comparison. You know, because you see how that's like throwing things out. There's because it's too light. and it needs yeah, an obvious. As I say, this still looks too big, but the obvious one is the that's showing up is the difference between those, the distance between those two things. That's what I'm seeing. Yeah, and you can see how it changes. Mainly that was to do with the tone of it. You know, this here that ought to be. A little bit more like that. I'm going to come in there and just fix that bit there. So as I said, the background is going to be, it can't not have a background on it. It's just the way it. Yeah, you can see what's happening now. The light becomes more. Plays more of a role in the atmosphere. That's what it is. So putting the, yeah, you can see a mile off. It's crazy. It's crazy. I think considering all these things is part of the process. Somebody, I'll tell you what I was thinking about as well with the, you know, I just as I broke down that thing this morning. All of that is just me thinking about it. It's just questioning everything and thinking about everything. You know, that kind of stuff. The thing that you should do is if you're creative, ask, you know, accept nothing, question everything. And this thing of why is it doing that? What's making it do that? Is that it's part and parcel of drawing, of observation. Why is it doing that? What's happening there? I don't think it's an understanding in terms of the the Nicoladis thing and the you're able to touch it to be able to draw it thing. I don't think it's that kind of understanding, or understanding the the three-dimensionalness of things. But I'm looking at how the light is affecting everything, and whether or not how that's actually impacting on the of what I'm seeing, what it makes me feel, and what I'm seeing. I'm using it's the Shopbox charcoal again. I know I should be using the homemade stuff, but when I do these, I like to, and I'm banging on about you can do this, you can do that, and other. I don't want anything to appear to be down to the fact that I'm using superior charcoal, but I can do it with anything. As I said yesterday with the kids' crayon stuff, you should be able to do it with anything. That's the whole point. Yeah. So what I was going to say, the sharpen point thing, I have the regular ends to it and all that. That's a big thing. When it gets to the importance of the mark making bit, although it's important all the way through it, but when it comes to the tonal mark making, and not just the application of the tone, but the way that you make the marks. When it comes to that, I need something that will be more than just fine lines. Because the problem with that is if I've only got fine lines to create some kind of tonal, to create the tones, I'll end up hatching, and I don't want to hatch. I don't want it to be hatched, and that's a big thing for me. I've told you before why I don't like hatching, but it just seems a bit more when the lines are regular, and it's I'm not going to put the curtain thing in just yet. When the lines are irregular, it just seems to have a little bit more colour, which is crazy. I always remember when I was at, I know I do these anecdotes all the time, but when I did I was at Society of Industrial Artists and Designers, and I did Society of Typographic Designers as well at college. And I always remember people talking about colour in type and never understanding what it meant, that type could have colour. I don't think it's the kind of thing you'll talk about now with all the kiddies on the Macs. But back in the day when we were typesetting, colour was a big thing. You had to, it had to feel right. It's a bit like this. It's a bit, type on a page, if it's not got any colour, if the lines are too long and all that sort of thing, it's not read. I mean, how many documents you looked at when the lines are too long? Because there's a curve after so many words. It depends on the type, and it depends on the weight and all the rest of it. But there are times when it may be 6 words, it may be 10 words, when the eye starts to drop off. So it does that. And if you've got no colour, if there are too many rivers in it, that kind of, too many breaks that cause rivers, all that kind of thing, it stops people from reading it. And you consider those things. I mean, these days I don't think people read anyway, because it's like if you can get an audio book with it, you don't really, don't get that. I'm not saying that I'm a reader, by the way. I'm not a reader at all. I'm not really story. I read technical documents, but I don't read stories. I'm not really, or even life stories. I hate life stories. The wife loves life stories. The life story thing. No, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in how somebody became great. Look at me. Look how great I am. They're all made up anyway. They're not. You can, yourself as you get older. You thought, I can't remember doing certain things. You have to make it up because there's so much happens in your life, and you think, and the wife will say to you, "Do you remember so and so?" And you think, "Oh my God, I can't remember it at all." But yeah, I do remember that. Do you remember that? What did they call her? Oh my goodness me. yeah, the trials are getting older. But then again, I've got selective memory. I only remember stuff that I need to remember. The rest of it gets jettisoned, including what I'm supposed to fetch back from the shops. I have this thing now. I have to count how many things. Even if I got a list, I have to say, right, I'm going to get 10 things. And then I know if I've only got 9, that I've forgotten something. And then I've got to sort of wrap my brain to think what that 10th thing was. So this build-up thing, and you can see now, I still got. This is the problem I've got at the moment is the jawline. This is the thing here. That's the thing that's throwing the whole of the shape out. Hold on, sorry about that. I just caught the wire of the monitor. Although by just doing that, it's actually improved it. And I'm looking at that in relation to here. That's where's that in relation to that distance there. I know there's stuff in between it, and it's actually throwing a little bit of my assessment out. But how far down is that? Get rid of that, some of that tone into there, and then there's highlight on this cheek. But it's I was saying this morning with the handshake thing. It's not just that early stage that you're drawing. You're drawing it all the time, and everything can be moved around as you're progressing through it, which is why that face started to look that I did on the demo was starting to look right, because it was evolving like this is. Yeah, like I say, it's this bit that's throwing out a little bit, kicking off there. Yeah, we'll kill that a bit. And the other thing I like about these as well, the sort of more painterly things, is that it all becomes, it does evolve as like a painting. And as you can see, and then there's a relationship. I've just seen somebody do a drawing and a drawing demo, and what I liked about it was the way that they accepted the fact that sometimes, like it's doing it here, that the background is so close that it just disappears in those places, and it gave it such a reality when he did it. Fantastic. But I'm going to put more charcoal on, knowing I'm going to smudge it off, because I'm going to create some kind of dappled texture. That thing that photographers create in the background, that one. So I'm going to take some of this off. It's going to become more, let's say, mottled, dappled. It still lifts that though. But the thing is that I think the similarity between these tones and the background tones creates a slight haze between the two, and that's part of the appeal, I think, of this pose is that slightly hazy, out of focus thing. I'm going to. I'm trying to even out some of these tones. I'm not really bothered about the mark that the marks I'm using. I'm more interested in the evenness of the tones. I'm just trying to. Sometimes I see those on Instagram, those charcoal masters, and I'm thinking they've got such control over the medium. It's like I want some of that charcoal. I want some of that. I want one of them rubbers they've got. They can just go back to white with. You know what I mean? I want all that because they've got incredible control. I suppose it serves me right for just using any old paper. You know, you're going to get, you know, if you don't use decent equipment, I suppose you're going to have those problems, aren't you? I'm for and against it. I'm like, I want decent equipment because I can do what they do. But at the same time, I don't want to be dependent on the equipment. I don't want the equipment to be the deciding factor. I want me to be the deciding factor. So I'm torn. I'm torn between, is it me or is it the kit? You know what I mean? And then I'm, you know, with all these sort of photographic club analogies, you know, comparing lens sizes and all that sort of stuff. Just the biggest lens in the group is the guy that's the king of the group, you know. And then back to the, you know, the guy that we were at home first with at the Brig House Art Circle with. Can't remember his name now. He'd retired. He was a millionaire. He retired. He had a pump making company in Huddersfield, and he retired and loads of money and went out. He took us all out to London, and we went to the famous, I can't remember the name of it, famous art supply shop, and he bought everything, as I told you before, and a fishing jacket type of thing to fill it, and he still couldn't draw. It didn't make any difference, you know. He got all the kit, didn't make any difference. But I'm sure that in, you know, skilled hands, the right equipment is definitely going to improve their outcome. But I kind of like the struggle. I don't know why. I mean, I probably could go and get some decent paper, but you know, I just can't justify spending. That's the thing. If it's about just getting equipment so that I can do this to whatever standard better, I'm quite happy with what I'm doing. So I don't really need to be chasing something else. What will it do to me? As you know, make me want to do it in a certain way more. Not really bothered. I'm quite happy with what I do. I know it turns out. I think that's part of the, when I was saying this morning about I was talking about, somebody was asking about artistic block, and I'd done this thing about, you know, the three things: the zero expectations and the intention, the zero expectations, and the loving what you do, you know, acceptance. And it kind of, it would go against that if I equipment biased, you know, equipment focused. So as I say, I'm not going to do it because of, but I do admire these people, these charcoal masters, and it never really puts the name underneath, so you can't find out where they are. I mean, occasionally you get people like Oliver Sin on these things, but he's a known quantity. All these other guys that can do it, I want to know them. I don't want to just know about Oliver Sin. But as I said, it's quite mesmerizing to watch them and the way that their equipment facilitates, you know, the marks and the way that they just wanted to put a highlight in something and bang, they can take the charcoal straight off. And how's that happen? How does that happen? I mean, I've got problems with new rubbers, old rubbers, you know. It's just any kind of rubber. I seem to have problems in removing and I end up with the grayness. So which is why I tend to leave the whiter area. I do the old watercolor trick, you know, you leave what's going to be ultimately white, and then work around that. It's a bit restrictive, but it takes a certain kind of a discipline, I suppose. But I do that rather than at the end of it trying to remove the charcoal back to white, so it's back to the colour of the paper. And then, of course, when you paint and you're painting oils, I think it's one of those game shows. The guy was kicking off because somebody was using the white canvas, letting the white canvas show through to one of the judges, using the white canvas to as highlights to show the highlights. And apparently it's not good form. Apparently, never really. I mean, at that point, this particular judge went down in my estimation. As I say, I don't watch the game show, but for him to say that, I thought, yeah. And the other one he famously said was, I want to see plenty of paint on because paint's cheap. Just like, no, it's not, mate. He's just definitely not. It might be if your dad was a great painter and he left you all the money, and then yeah, you can afford to do it. Or you're on a game show or judging a game show, but for the rest of us, it costs money, and we're not. That's the hardest thing. So, Jackson paint's huge. He's currently doing like 1 meter by 2 meters, and the amount of paint he's using is just staggering. To paint, he's doing everything paint, and in fact, he makes his own paint. He's making that much, so he's bought pigments and beeswax, and I can't remember what else to put in it. Probably linseed oil, but yeah, because he's using that much, so he's making his own. Plus the fact the colours that you make yourself are better than in terms of intensity and strength, because you can put as much pigment as you like in them, and they're just so much more lush, if that's the right word. They have got a depth to them, really nice. Yeah. So, as I said, it's a painting, isn't it? It's not really a portrait. It's a portrait, but it's not really a floating heads type of portrait. So I'm not sure about what's going to happen with all these curls here and how they relate to the top of the hair, but it's definitely getting lighter in there and lighter up there like that. So there's curtains there. That's not bad, is it? It's almost like curtains. And then this bit here, and then the white out there. Yeah. Still going to put a bit more work into the mouth just to make those lips a little bit more bulbous, more, you know what I mean? Make the shape right. Yeah. But as I said, the light's there. That's the main thing for me. I think I'm drawing the light, focused on the light more than anything else. I want the edges to be a little bit blurred. It's more of an atmospheric thing, I think, that more than anything else. But looking at the relationships a little bit there. The hair comes down and then round, and then I can't really put that in yet because I don't know what's going to happen here. So I'm going to put the hair in just yet. The neck is there, but there's a slight shadow on that, and as it comes down and round like that. Yeah. But there's tonal issues there, you can see. There should be no highlight there, only it's just lighter, but it's no highlight there. So that needs to be knocked back quite a bit. Yeah, like that. It's still too light. And then you can have a bit of highlight there. Yeah. Slowly. So I think I'm just going to start, putting more into the shape manipulation, the tonal side of things. Looking at you can see the density relationships there. There is the form on that, but there's still, this is not a highlight, so it doesn't need to be that high, that light. So there's stuff like that I need to fix as I'm working through it. Seeing the shape of a bottom ray out there, and yeah, I think the most important thing I think is that it's the relationship of everything. It's not just the face in the middle kind of thing. And sometimes I pick those kind of images, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes they're quite happy just to float around. I think this is probably one of those that should have been a background, should have been part of a. This is the lesson from Sunday. I think it's one of those that should have had, because it doesn't look right just floating around. You see it. But it was just an exercise that we went through on Sunday. So, whereas this one, it definitely needs, you can see, it definitely needs that environment to live in. You know what I mean? It definitely needs that. It just makes it. I think that's probably one of my things. Is that I'm not trying to prove that I can draw something, and be, a good draftsman. I'm not thinking about that. I'm just thinking about creating a representation of a moment of emotion. That's what I'm thinking about. It's not how well I can draw. It's not my concern. And which is what you tend to get with these floating heads. Look how well he's drawn the beard or whatever. Not interested in that. It's just me, as I say, it's just my driver. But if it was all about those sort of things, I don't think I'd do it. I'd be back in the old killing myself, beating myself up because I wasn't good enough kind of frame of mind, and I don't want to be there. So I'm always good enough, if you know what I mean, because I'm not locked into this perception of it should be a certain way. Anyway, as I said, I'm going to just carry on fiddling with this and finish it off, and I'll stick it on the socials, and I'll catch you later. What time is it? Oh, I won't be on again today. I'll see you tomorrow.